Christine Brennan's Her Game, a scorching deep dive into the rise of Caitlin Clark and the WNBA's bungled response to her cultural and commercial explosion, reads like both a biography and an indictment, chronicling how a generational athlete collided headfirst with a league too entrenched in its own inertia to seize the moment. Brennan, a veteran sports journalist with decades of experience covering women's athletics, pulls no punches in documenting how Clark's transition from Iowa superstar to Indiana Fever rookie wasn't just a sports story. It was a media and business revolution that the WNBA fumbled at every turn. The book begins with a stunning anecdote. Shortly after Clark declared for the WNBA draft, Brennan called a top league executive and asked if they understood the magnitude of what was about to happen. The executive's response: comparing Clark to Maya Moore, an all-time great within the sport but never a household name, exposed just how deeply the league misunderstood the scale and stakes of Clark's arrival. Clark wasn't simply another highly touted player. She was a rare cultural phenomenon, someone who brought in casual fans, crossover celebrities, media attention, and dollars at a rate no one had seen in women's basketball before. The signs were unmistakable. 14,000 fans poured into a preseason Fever game, tailgating like it was an NFL Sunday. Tickets sold out in minutes. Clark's games broke viewing records that had stood untouched for decades. And yet, according to Brennan, the WNBA's leadership responded with baffling restraint, failing to put Clark at the forefront of marketing campaigns, bungling merchandising by underestimating demand for her jersey, and allowing her early national TV schedule to undercut her visibility. In one promotional video, Brennan reports, the league chose to have an unknown staffer introduce the league rather than simply showing Clark play, a move that reflected a systemic unwillingness to deviate from status quo marketing habits. Even worse, supply chain failures left fans without Clark jerseys in the early weeks of the season, missing key sales windows and frustrating new supporters. These weren't just minor PR stumbles. They were multi-million-dollar missteps in an era where moments trend and disappear overnight. Brennan goes deeper, exposing the internal culture within the league that made Clark's integration even more complex. Some league veterans and insiders reportedly bristled at the idea that a young white player from Iowa, beloved by middle America and mainstream brands, would suddenly become the face of a league built on decades of hard-earned progress by Black and queer athletes. Brennan doesn't shy away from the racial and political undertones of this friction, reporting that many of Clark's new fans came from political backgrounds misaligned with the progressive values often championed by the WNBA, and that the league did little to mediate or explain this cultural convergence to its players or stakeholders. Clark was effectively left alone to navigate these tensions, receiving no guidance from the league on media strategy, player relations, or handling the media storm that followed every hard foul, social media clip, or teammate interaction. Brennan also speaks with renowned sociologist Harry Edwards, who argues that the league should have prepared its athletes for what Clark represented: economic uplift, increased visibility, and new opportunities, not treated her like a threat to authenticity. The silence from leadership, Brennan argues, created a vacuum filled by media drama, snarky online narratives, and coded tension, rather than the unity and uplift that could have defined the season. At the economic level, the missed opportunities are staggering. Brennan cites analysis from Dr. Ryan Brewer, who estimates Clark's presence alone has generated hundreds of millions of dollars in auxiliary economic activity, from sold-out arenas and skyrocketing TV ratings to hotel bookings and restaurant revenue around WNBA games. And yet, league leadership reportedly remained slow-footed, refusing to expand marketing budgets, hesitating on pushing Clark into global sponsorship opportunities, and continuing to operate like a niche league rather than a rapidly emerging mainstream product. This is particularly frustrating, Brennan argues, because other global sports leagues have laid the blueprint for how to capitalize on breakout stars, especially those who bring in new demographics. The WNBA, by contrast, treated Clark like a rookie rather than a revolution, which left sponsors, media executives, and longtime fans alike baffled by the passive rollout. Brennan also gives voice to frustrated fans who showed up in droves, parents who had never watched a women's game before but were suddenly traveling cross-country with their kids, longtime supporters who felt energized for the first time in years, and new viewers who found the league despite its own branding failures. Their testimonials, sprinkled throughout the book, underscore the grassroots movement Clark helped ignite, and the systemic barriers put in place by a league too slow to adjust. As Brennan tells it, some insiders tried to raise the alarm, urging the WNBA to act boldly and meet the moment, but they were often ignored by decision-makers who prioritized political correctness, internal equity, or outdated marketing rules over business growth and cultural adaptation. Brennan also skewers the sports media, pointing out that many mainstream outlets either tiptoed around the internal conflicts or amplified them without proper context, failing to protect or support the sport at a moment of unprecedented opportunity. As a result, Clark was both the league's biggest draw and its most controversial figure, not because of anything she did, but because the infrastructure around her refused to evolve. Internationally, the embarrassment was even greater. Leagues overseas recognized Clark's value, while the WNBA's stumbles signaled dysfunction to a global audience. And even when the league finally responded, with belated promo spots and awkward media pushes, it was too little, too late. Clark kept breaking records. Fans kept asking, "Where's the league in all this?" And Brennan shows again and again that the answer was often nowhere. Her conclusion is blunt. This wasn't just a mishandling of one player's launch, it was a systemic failure to recognize how the sports landscape is shifting. Clark represents a new era of women's sports, commercial, global, mainstream, and the WNBA is at risk of being left behind if it continues to treat momentum as a threat rather than an asset. Her game is more than a bestseller. It's a mirror to a league caught between its legacy and its future. And if Brennan's reporting proves anything, it's that the future won't wait.